Hello and welcome back to the She Gallery Show. We are live with Milton Coronado. Thank you for being with us, Milton.
My pleasure.
Also known as MILT ONE. This is season 6. Season 6 of the She Gallery Show, broadcasting live with CAN TV. We are so proud to be here. So grateful to be here. So grateful to continue to share stories, platforms, and hopefully inspire you guys.
No doubt.
Tonight we have a really amazing guest, an amazing person, a local artist, preacher, and teacher. And we really want to focus on very specific topics as far as like healing arts, gangs, violence in this local community. And speaking of violence, compassion towards this violence and how we react to these situations. So Milton, I'm gonna let you, and please remember that you are live with us and you're welcome to call us throughout the segment at 312-738-1060. You can always visit us at our website and check out any of our other previous shows that we've had. We've been, again, this is our 6th season since 2017. Oh, sorry. And it's been a little while, so I apologize. Okay, so here we are. We are at sharinghisenergygallery.net. That is our website where you can also visit all of our previous segments. Last season, we had Trickster One hosting the show, and he shared the evolution of the the graffiti history evolution that paved way to street art. And something that Milton Coronado, the artist that we have here today with us, is showing a grand example of what that movement has come to. So here we are going to check out Milton Coronado. Many of you are familiar with the horrible story that happened with Marlene Ochoa here in Chicago, and it hit home. And again, this was a violent crime that happened here in Chicago, full of hate, and an artist, out of the kindness of his heart and compassion, who shared a story, knew that this was a way to heal, to help the family heal. So he did just that. So Milton, you were born in Chicago.
I was born and raised in Chicago from Mexican immigrants. They immigrated here from the state of Jalisco, Mexico, way back, obviously. And sometime in the 1970s, early 70s or so, something like that.
And you've kept your close roots to Chicago?
Oh, no doubt.
Growing up in La Villita?
I did. Born in K-Town, growing up in La Villita, growing up in Cicero, Berwyn, and then coming back to Pilsen, and then still residing in the city.
Mm-hmm. How has it been growing up in these areas of the city as far as like gangs go, and violence, or the upbringing?
During my high school years, I lived in Berwyn at the time, so I wasn't heavily as influenced by those perhaps that lived in the inner city in Chicago, but nonetheless, I still was impacted, obviously. I was involved, a lot of my friends were involved very deeply and heavily in the gang life, and because of their influence, because of my ties with them, my friendships with them, I soon then just followed and partied with them, hung out with them, and also did some of the things that they did as well. So I too was also impacted by the gangs and the violence in the city. And obviously, and I could share this, I was deeply even more impacted by gangs because it was a gang-affiliated individual who killed my father as well. So I too am a victim of the violence that the city shares. Definitely.
Really hit home.
Definitely. It's been crazy, but I've taken those experiences and learned from them, and I really believe that violence that I went through, the violence that I experienced, really made me the person who I am today, and which is why I give back and I mentor and I try to disciple, if you will, young people to avoid the same type of lifestyle that I went through as a teen.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I've been coughing.
That's all right. I have too.
I think it's the allergies or something. It's horrible. So growing up in the south side of Chicago in these neighborhoods, I also grew up in La Villita, went to school in Young Men, and like I was talking with when I was talking with Milton, I was telling him how many people don't realize that in growing up in these areas of the city, sometimes you don't have a choice to become a gangbanger. Some people that are not familiar with the gang life may say, "Oh, why are they becoming gangbangers? You know, they're such losers."
Right.
And you don't realize that sometimes you get cornered and they just say what you be about, and you're either kings and folks or folks.
I met I went to a wedding 2 weeks ago,
Oh my God.
and when I was there, I met, I ran into a family member that I haven't seen since I was a child. And we were there talking, and he was talking about different people that were at this reception, this wedding reception. And he pointed to this young family who had a son who was entering high school, freshman. And he was saying that they were living in the area, but they were then moving to a different state because of the gang influence that individual was already growing up in. That he constantly being bombarded and constantly being bullied, constantly being pressured by other individuals around his age, maybe a little bit older, that were constantly picking on him and telling him to pick a side.
Yeah, it's like bullying, but you're bullied into becoming a
Right.
gang.
And if you look at this individual as I did, I would have never have guessed that he would have that type of interest for that type of lifestyle. I mean,
and many don't.
He
just fall into
clearly did not fit the image that many would fit. And so, because of that bullying and pressure that he was constantly receiving at school and on his way to his house from school, they decided to move, to just take him out of the state, to move to a different place where he could be surrounded by more positive influences, because of that constant pressure that he did not have a choice in deciding on. So it was either choose this side or this side, but you have to choose. Otherwise, we're going to be constantly picking on you and beating you up because you're neutral.
Or we'll make a choice for you and beat you up into that gang.
Into that gang.
And that's what happens a lot of times. So I just wanted to kind of like, clear up that misconception. And again, remind you that you are alive. Oh, I'm so sorry. That you are alive, and you are alive with Milton Coronado. You can always visit his website as well, crownedart.com. Become familiar with this mural, this beautiful mural that he shared, that he did out of the kindness of his heart. And now earlier he mentioned that it was this gang life or this gang affiliated story with your father who ended up losing his life as a victim of crime, gang violence. And you did something really special. Earlier this season or last season, Trickster, when he was our guest, our host, he had Flash from ABC as a guest. And Flash explained to us how he created this Project Logan, where he has this wall in Logan Square and has artists rotating and rotating. So what Milton did was he hooked up with Flash and his father have the same birthday, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And Flash said, "Yeah, do this mural for your father," and he rocked it for a whole year, right?
Right.
And it helped your family heal.
It was amazing. I mean, when my father passed away, a couple years later, mind you, he passed away in 2001. A couple years later, I decided I thought that one day I'd like to paint a mural of him, for him. But it took a while because something like that, it is very personal. It is emotional. And so I had to cross that bridge where I felt emotionally stable to create that. So 2-3 years ago or so, I was able to finally do that at Project Logan. I talked to Flash about it, and I thought, I'd like to do this around my dad's birthday. He asked when was his birthday, just to find out, if he had the space available. I told him, he's like, "Dude, that's my birthday too." I'm like, "What? Get out, awesome." So
no coincidences, I
not
swear.
at all. And so he gave me a great spot. I was so blessed by it, and I was able to do that. And he was able to rock it, leave it up there for about a full year. And I was so blessed. I was so touched by him willing to allow me to paint a portrait of my father, a memorial for him. And I realized that it was therapy. It was art therapy for me. Yeah. And as I brought family over, my siblings and friends and my wife and my kids, taking pictures there, it was very emotional for me. but it really wasn't more. It was more of a joy than a sorrow, if you will. More of a joy than a happiness than this sadness that I would feel, because I just felt like he lives, not just in our hearts and our minds, but there's a visual image of him, and it was so, for me, on a personal level, very real.
Yeah.
Very real.
And for your family and your loved ones as well.
They enjoyed it. They loved it. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
so
very
beautiful.
special. And so I wanted to do that to the Ochoa Oriastegui Lopez family when this young lady Marlene passed away. Unfortunately, passed away very young age, 19. The way that she did, very horrific and very evil, and then to have her baby stripped away from her womb the way it happened, it was just horrible. So thinking about that story, having felt impacted by it, and touched by it, I thought, you know what? I like to give back to this family. I like to give back to the community of Chicago that has been impacted very heavily by this story, and the responses from the community, the responses from the family were just
Astonishing.
amazing. Just
And you will
amazing.
see, oops, sorry. You will see, or you will notice that, we all heard that Marlene, what happened with Marlene. Everybody heard what happened with
Right.
Marlene, and everybody in Chicago was talking about it. Even outside of Chicago. It was just like horrific, like, wow, monsters. And then the baby had survived, right? So there
Right.
was like all this hope for the baby. And then when you created this mural, the family was so touched. There was a balloon release, and when the baby passed, they reached back out to you and they told you, they asked you personally if you could do the baby,
Right.
right? If you
Well,
could add the baby next
Right,
to her. It's so
and I said,
beautiful.
like,
How did you feel? Yeah.
well, they asked me that. They talked about that before the baby passed away, and so at the time I was like, well, I would do that,
Wait,
but
how-
hopefully,
hold up.
hopefully,
Let me back
no,
up a little bit. How did you feel when you met their family? Because you hadn't met these people before.
no, I didn't. I
You
didn't.
just remember how much it helped you, your family, with your father, and then you said, you know what, I'm gonna do this for this woman that you don't know. This happened on a Thursday,
Right.
and you said, please God, don't let it rain on Sunday, because I gotta go out there and I gotta do this mural Sunday, and then it rained on Sunday.
And then it rained on Sunday.
But you went anyway.
But I
You
went
waited in
anyway.
your car, and
Right.
And there it is.
I remember I got the paint. I bought the paint and stuff, and I get there Sunday like 11 o'clock, 11:30 or so, and I'm still talking to God. I'm like, please, don't let it rain, don't let it rain, don't let it rain. So I started, I did my thing. People are already stopping. I mean, mind you, I'm not even halfway complete with this wall, with this project, and people were stopping. Is that the young lady who passed away? Is that the young lady who passed away?
Yeah.
And they embraced me. They thanked me, took pictures. They thanked me for doing this for her, for the family, for the city. And then it started raining. I mean, pouring this Sunday afternoon. And I sat in my car for about an hour, praying and praying and praying some more. It finally stopped. I continued, and it started raining again for about 10, 15 minutes. And then I was able to finish because I had to be somewhere else in the western suburbs. I had a prior engagement. But it was crazy because by the time I went home, and I left my house to go to this other engagement that I had about an hour and a half later, people were already calling me like, Milton, we would love to talk to you about this mural, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, different news stations, and it was pretty much overwhelming. I didn't, and it, what kind of got under my skin is that a couple days later, I had people saying, posting, sharing amongst their own friends that I would come across with on social media, especially, that I did this for fame, that I was capitalizing on this situation, and I'm like,
There's always room for haters.
always. But you know what? I always say, you know
kinda
what?
funny.
Haters, keep on hating, because tomorrow I got something more for you.
Well,
for you
for
to hate
those
about.
of you who made those comments or thoughts, now you know the story
The
behind
story behind it.
He was a victim. His father was a victim.
Yeah, and I
of gun
found out
violence, and that helped.
how it helped me, how it played an essential, important component of healing for me.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to get it back to the family in the city of Chicago that was equally as impacted by this story. But so I did it on a Sunday, and it was now Wednesday, and thanks to Telemundo, who hooked up, who planned the meeting and really organized the opportunity for me to meet the family at the mural. It was awesome. It was really sincere, really emotional, and really joyful.
Yeah.
I embraced the father, the mom, her brothers. Her husband wasn't there. He couldn't show up, but I was able to connect with her immediate family. It was just very, very special. Very
Yeah.
special for me. It really touched my heart. And to this day, I continue an intimate relationship with her father, Arnulfo. So it's pretty special.
Yeah, I'm sure you're helping them heal through a situation that they probably couldn't even begin to try to start.
Right.
But I think that was the start, finding the compassion in the neighborhood. To know that, wow, people care. Wow, there's a lot of ugly people out there, weak souls, but there's a lot of good people too. And you share that, and that's really, really special.
Thank you.
We're talking about healing for the arts, and earlier we were talking about gang violence and how, like, some of these gangs, they'll corner you, at least growing up in the 90s when I grew up in those neighborhoods. It was like you're either folks or you're people, or if not, we're going to turn you into whatever we are. So you didn't have a choice. When you go home all beat up and trying to explain to your mom, blah, blah, blah. But what happens is that when you choose to become a graffiti writer during this era, they leave you alone. It's almost like a stamp that says respect. And I think that it has a lot to do with this type of production, this type of art production, that gang bangers, gang members are people too. And everybody has a story. Maybe they didn't have the same opportunities that we do, or that some people do, because, like I said, some people don't have a choice. And I know a lot of people that have been gangbangers that have tried to get out, and some can't, and some do. And, there's different stories to different situations. But you hear a lot of graffiti writers saying, graffiti saved my life. You hear a lot of artists saying, art saved my life, for one reason or another. But in the graffiti community, a lot of it has to do with it literally does, because it's the only safe way to getting out of a gang during that era. So how did it affect you? We have this documentary here, Tagged for Life.
Right.
You want to talk to us about how you went from, from sharing these personal experiences, living in these neighborhoods, always having art as an outlet since very young, since your mother passed when you were just 5 years old. And again, I encourage everybody to visit his website where you can learn more about him, more about his story and about me. And here and in talking to you, I learned about, a lot of the hardship that you went through, which is very brave of you to share, because people can find this common ground and say, man, I went through that too, and it just becomes easier.
Sure.
So that's how we heal. So for you, you became, you had these experiences, and then you went in to become a preacher and sharing your stories. You want to talk to us about that transition?
Sure. Well, like you said,
and this Tagged for Life.
I can start by piggybacking on what you were saying, that indeed art, specifically graffiti, did save my life, because for the first 2 years of high school, I hung around with really close friends, awesome friends that to this day I still keep in contact with. They went off and did great things, and God bless them. But it was after those 2 years that I was, and hanging out with these individuals and doing all these things that were damaging for my body, physically and emotionally and mentally. Yeah. And then I came across an airbrush. And
dun, 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 dun.
Exactly. And so my father paid so that I can receive airbrushing classes for just a couple of hours. And I was heavily addicted to airbrushing. When my friends after school, they would go out and smoke weed and do their thing and stuff, I would just go home and go to the basement of our house, to this room that my father built for me, my studio.
That's so cool.
And just practice t-shirts, painting t-shirts. And then I started getting better at it. Mm-hmm. And so my friends, another group of individuals who were already tagging around, they're like, dude, would you like to do this? And would you like to go out bombing with us? Have you ever done this? I'm like, dude, I've never done that. I'd like to.
Teach me, tell me.
And so like many individuals, yes. I went out painting trains, doing some bombing and some tagging around Berwyn. I felt like a rebel around Berwyn.
Just looking for a place to be.
Seriously. And I loved it. And I got addicted to it. And so now I'm a junior in high school. I got accepted to the American Academy of Art to study art. I finished my junior year in high school.
What a vandal.
Seriously. How thuggish, how crazy.
Going to art school.
Going to art school, right, with my cap and my gown.
Putting art on the streets.
No doubt. And then I went to the American Academy of Art. I started in the fall of 1998. I went to school with Max Samsung. I went to school with Static. I went to school with Solo. I was heavily Cesar Perez. I got heavily influenced by other artists, and I was deeply impacted by their lifestyle, by their skill, by their style. It was amazing. And then on the start of my senior year, excuse me, that's when my father got killed, and set off this whole trajectory towards community service, social justice, human activism, etc. And after that, even though my passion for art was still there, was still strong, I wanted to give back more. I got much more heavily involved in my faith. I grew up a Christian, but I strayed away when I was in high school and college. But I came back after my father's passing. I became a dean at a high school. I then became a pastor of a church for 4 years. And I continue to minister this way. I continue to speak from the pulpit or from a stage, from at a school, at a church, or wherever I'm given the platform to just not only share about faith and the love of God, but to mentor, to encourage, to motivate young people, which is my main focus. And in that process, I was able to meet a friend named Kamen Kunchev, who's a producer of films, and him and I collaborating for about 2 years. We were able to put together this documentary, which is my story on
Can you
film.
put it over here?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's backwards. Sorry.
Cool. Sorry, y'all.
It's
Boom.
been a while. That's awesome. God bless. So I want to say that, there's no coincidence, and I always believe that, people that we've loved that have passed on to the other side are always still with us.
No doubt.
And guarding, and we never really walk alone. So in all of these experiences that you've had since your father's passing, I do believe that what you saw in that mural, he's still here. You've kept him alive.
Yeah.
And through all that you've done when he built that studio for you. So thank you for doing all of this.
my
And to
pleasure.
keep rocking, to give back to the community the way that you have, especially after losing him the way that you did. And I want to let everybody know that you can find this segment in a couple of days on our website on sharinghisenergygallery.net. Just like you could check out all of last season's shows and all of the segments that we've had since the beginning. And there you'll also be able to contact Milton directly and check out this documentary, his story. So we just have a few minutes left. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the public, from your personal story? I can go on, but I want to make sure that you have your time to express yourself the way that you like.
I just want to encourage the individuals who are tuning in so that they can continue this butterfly effect, if you will, of compassion, of grace and forgiveness, and more importantly, love. Because I really believe that because of all this evil that we're surrounded with is because there's an absence of love. And people may wonder, well, what can I do that can make a difference? Well, by you not doing something, you're contributing to this negativity, and that's just my mentality. That's what I think.
Doing nothing is doing something.
Yeah, and so if we just give kindness,
you're very good at it.
if we give kindness, it'll just create this ripple effect, and others can be infected by it, and be influenced by it, and then share it. Love is powerful, and love can do so many things. And if you let love guide you, encourage you, and lead your way, then you'll be seeing some amazing blessings and miracles throughout your life. Yeah, that's
beautiful.
my message in a nutshell. I can go on, but
Well, you still have 2
Court.
minutes. But I love what you've said. So sharing his energy gallery, that's what we are, sharing his energy and sharing all energy. So we're talking about negative forces and positive forces, love versus evil. We saw a really evil act of somebody with jealousy and somebody that was obviously not in their full senses that
Right.
hurt somebody.
right.
Not even realizing how ridiculous their plot was. It was just evil and hate, thoughtless evil and hate. And something that he says, love is a very powerful thing. It is a really powerful thing, and it overpowers the negative. So while there is still a lot of hate and evil in this world, we were all born with love. So we can all come back to our roots, be honest with ourselves, and not be fearful, because it is fear where the hate starts. To be honest with yourself, love yourself. then you can love your neighbor. Really love your neighbor. Starting with your family. Once you're okay with your family, you can spread this with your neighbors, with your community, and be able to get up there and do a mural for your father, and then do a
Sure.
mural for your stranger.
Right.
It's a beautiful thing. When Milton shared this story with me, P is one of our artists that we've been working with. We've been working on this production spectrum that's on the wall of 16th Street and Walcott and Wood. And we're just muraling the community for all of you. And when he shared this story, I said, how would you feel about putting a permanent mural for your father? And he said, I would love to. So we look forward to that.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us, Milton.
Touched.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.